All right, let's jump right in. We're about to connect two things that seem like they're from different planets. The over-the-top indulgence of ancient royalty and that all-too-familiar feeling of modern burnout. Believe it or not, there's a really fascinating thread that ties them together. Let's pull on it.
So, what could a royal feast possibly have in common with burnout? On the surface, absolutely nothing. One is about pure indulgence, the other is about crushing pressure. But, as you're about to see, they both hinge on the exact same problem: how to manage a massive overload. To really get this, we've got to take a trip back in time to a pretty strange and, let's be honest, kind of disturbing habit of the aristocracy. Yep, you heard that right. During these epic feasts, some nobles would actually excuse themselves to a private room just to make more space. The goal wasn't health or wellness. Nope, it was all about enabling more indulgence, so they could go right back to the table and keep the party going. This whole practice really defines what you could call a luxury of imbalance. It's all about intentionally pushing a system, in this case the human body, way past its natural limits for one simple reason: pleasure. And to do that, you needed a brutal, artificial reset button. Okay, so let's fast forward to today. We are also pushing a system to its absolute limits, but that system is our brain. And the currency of our excess? Well, it has completely changed. Our modern overload isn't plates of food. It's the relentless, non-stop cognitive and emotional strain of everyday life. And you know what? Just like those bodies back then, our brain is desperately trying to find some balance. You ever wonder why you fidget, click a pen, tap your foot, scratch your head? Well, these aren't just nervous tics. They're actually micro-releases. They're the brain's tiny, unconscious safety valves, venting just a little bit of tension to keep us from overloaded. So, what happens when those little vents just aren't enough? When a massive wave of strain comes crashing down, the brain needs a much, much bigger outlet. 16 kilometers? Get this. That's the distance an Italian man reportedly walked after a huge argument with his wife. This was not a leisurely stroll, not at all. This was an emergency purge. It was his brain compelling a massive physical act to offload a massive amount of emotional strain. That man's walk was basically an improvised large-scale release valve. So what happens when you try to build one of these on purpose? Well, some companies are now creating what they call a strain room, but its purpose is fundamentally different from anything in the past. This chart really nails the core difference. The old vomit room, its whole purpose was to purge, so you could indulge even more. But the new strain room is all about release, so you can restore balance, so you can actually think clearly and work together again. The goal has totally flipped from dysfunction to function. And hey, this isn't just some abstract theory. A real company called Tomorrow Frontiers actually put it to the test. They built a dedicated space for their employees to safely release all that accumulated strain. So what was inside? Simple but really effective tools. They had designated shouting zones to flush stress from the limbic system. They had boxing bags to let people externalize their frustration. And pull-up bars to provide that intense physical release that signals to the body that the crisis is over. And the results were, well, they were amazing. Interpersonal conflicts just plummeted, while efficiency shot way up. In fact, the team became so effective and collaborative that the company was even able to avoid layoffs, which is huge. But here's the really cool part. You don't actually need a special room. Your brain already has its own set of built-in, unconscious tools to keep you balanced even on a larger scale. I mean, just think about these things we all do. Yawning, it's not just about being sleepy. It's actually cooling down an overstrained brain. Daydreaming isn't laziness. It's your brain intelligently redistributing its cognitive load. Even stress eating has a purpose. It delivers a quick shot of glucose to your fried neural circuits. So what's the common thread here? What connects a Roman banquet, a 16-kilometer walk, a boxing bag, and a yawn? They are all just different expressions of one single universal law. Now, entropy is just a fancy word for disorder or chaos or strain, and regularity just means smooth function. So all this quote is really saying is that for any system to work properly, whether it's a body, a brain, or a whole company, it must have a way to get rid of built-up disorder. It's not optional. And this is that universal cycle in 3 simple steps. First, a system absorbs too much of something: food, strain, you name it. Second, it needs a dedicated outlet to get rid of that overload. And third, balance and smooth sailing are restored. This simple loop applies to everything we've talked about. And this really brings us to the main point of all this. The vomit room? That was a luxury of imbalance. But the strain room and every other form of release is a modern necessity. It isn't a sign of weakness. It's a core requirement for any system to function at all.
So we'll leave you with this. Your brain is working 24/7 trying to protect you from overload. The question is, now that you know how it works, how are you going to consciously help it do its job?